When I report on the war in Ukraine, I'm well aware that there are multiple levels of the war. There's a hot war, there's an informational war, there's a cyber war, and so on and so forth. Like there's an economic war. And within the hot war, there's multiple levels of the hot war. There's the frontline battlefield, and then there's drones that are attacking like refineries, and then there's drones that are FPV drones that are on the battlefield supporting the infantry, and then there are drones that are attacking civilians, and so on and so forth. Okay. So now what I want to talk about here are drones. Now, there's been a lot of attention on the drones that are attacking, like the long-range drones that are attacking Russian oil and knocking out up to 17% of the capacity of Russian oil. And that's so the drone warfare is overlapping. And again, they're stacked one on top of each other, overlapping and having a cascade effect on the economic war. Okay, you understand that. But I'm not going to talk about the long-range drones in this video. I want to talk about something else. And it's not the battlefield drone. Well, I mean, it kind of is, but it's kind of more than that. So FPV drones, whether they are like regular FPV drones or whether they're fiber optic, they're actually having a really interesting impact on the battlefield by separating those the combatants. So you see that there was like 980 casualties today. Those numbers have been a lot lower this year in 2023 or 2024 than they were in 2025 than they were in 2024 and 2023. In 2023, they were creeping up. In 2024, they spiked, and then they're dropping that down. And part of the drop down is that they have to keep their distance because of drones. So if they continue to fight like they did in 2024, while the drones are out there, they realized this is a bad thing. It's not. So it's kind of separating the combatants on the battlefield some. You can't mass for attack. Old school kind of like, let's get into a formation with 100 tanks and just blow through them. That's no longer on the table. Now, so that's what's happening there. Then you see things like drone units that are just devastating, and they're pound for pound punching way above their weight. The drone units, whether it is the 413th Raid Battalion of Unmanned Systems Forces or Magyar Birds or whatever, they are just doing some damage. In fact, drones are having the effect on the battlefield like IEDs had in Afghanistan and Iraq. It's just like the highest percentage of casualties, like 75 to 80%, come from drone attacks. Okay, now I'm taking you to Kherson. Kherson is this big city on the other side of a river here. Russia controls this side, Ukraine controls that side, and the Russians are really devastating Kherson with drone attacks because the drones can cover 10, 15, 20, even 30 kilometers, and they're going after civilians in the city. We've talked about that before. And your perpetual writes the situation in Kherson is deteriorating. Yeah, it was never good, and it's gotten worse over time. They are now shutting down the M14 highway into the city. The highway is keeping the city alive. Whenever a drone is detected, Russians are trying to starve the city and force Ukraine to abandon it. So, yeah, it's just a bad scene. Like this, at approximately 700 Russian military forces attacked a vehicle with a drone on the road between the villages of Klapaya and Chernokhovivka. As a result, of the enemy strike, a 47-year-old medical director and a 38-year-old female doctor from one of healthcare facilities were injured. Preliminary reports indicate that they sustained explosive injuries. The victims independently sought medical help. They're receiving necessary medical care. Look, just people driving down the road in their car are being attacked with these drones. Let me go on to the other one here. Here's another post on the M14 Kherson Mykolaiv highway. Traffic restrictions are possible. If enemy drones are detected, the road will be temporarily closed. Please take this into account when planning trips, and if possible, choose an alternative route. So this is the highway connecting Kherson up to Mykolaiv, and the Russians are targeting that, trying to wreak as much havoc as they can back there. Okay, so Normally I show you the map for Pokros, and I think there was like 38 attacks. The attacks in Kherson were limited on the ground. Kherson region among the Dnieper River, the enemy made 3 unsuccessful attempts. So it looks like there's not a lot going on here, but that's deceptive because there's not a lot of like infantry-like attacks. But there's lots of drone attacks, and this is where, and this is the highway between Mykolaiv and Kherson that we were just talking about. Lots of infantry attack, or sorry, lots of drone attacks, even if the infantry is very few and far between. So let's look at this. Serena Zabrinsky says this: drone siege. As of this morning, traffic restrictions possible on Kherson-Mykolaiv highway. If Russian drones detected, the road will be temporarily closed. We're doing everything possible to stabilize the situation. And then she is here reporting about this, saying this: as the city is being turned into rubble, the only road leading to the rest of Ukraine is being cut off. That's problematic because this is like the big highway to supply Kherson. And the Russians know that. They have no compunction about hitting civilians or engaging in tea or whatever else. Okay. By Russian FPV drones. I'm on a bus from Odessa to Kherson now. The situation on the road is so bad that a friend with a drone detector will meet me by the entrance to the Kherson region. If we arrive and there's no car, but the battery is low, we're a prime target. If that car is nearby or moving, that'll be a higher priority. Those cargo trucks are a priority. Drones that miss fallen fields and explode and start fires. Like it's just terrible there. I mean, all the terrible things that are happening, what the Russians are doing, targeting civilians in this war. It's just, I'm like, it's unbelievable that we're talking to them like, yeah, let's make a deal. Certainly you're civilized and you'll want to strike a deal as well, right? Because a drone ignited it. Everything. This is a Hoover. It scans frequencies and intercepts the pilot's video feed. And so I see through its eyes. If I spot my road or car, I act. Yeah, that's got to be terrible. To avoid being hit, sometimes I speed up or I hide under trees. Here's another drone detector. It's smaller. It's a drone tunnel, the fishing nets, and I've seen plenty of those. Greg Terry was talking about those as well. We should have driven that fast at least, but with our vehicles or with our devices, we know where they are. The device can't just see one type of drone. It's on a fiber optics drone that lands on the road. When it spots a priority target, it takes off and it strikes. Right. So the Russians are doing this game where they'll like leave the drone just sitting there and then they'll just go right after the thing because it's already, it's waiting in ambush. Okay. Drones have arrived, but they're far off. A car that hasn't been towed yet today. A drone destroyed it. Many spare parts on the road, line the roads from damaged vehicles. And of course, you can't clean up bumpers and fenders and cars. And yeah, so that's where they are with this drone warfare. Okay, Russian forces are heavily targeting the M4 Kherson-Mykolaiv highway with drones striking civilian transport. Even Trump's aware of this. Trump said that U.S. specialists are studying Ukraine's experience in drones warfare. I'm glad that somebody is in the U.S. government. There have never been a drone war before, and we're really studying it, says Pete Hegseth and others. It's a completely new kind of war, the U.S. president said. So, yeah, it's something very, very different. Okay, here's my analogy. Drones are something, Greg Terry helped me understand this. There's no, the defense to drones are very poor. The offense is very high. So think about a martial artist, for example. If a martial artist, if you punch at a martial artist, he might block, right? So let's say this is 50% and this is 50%. Now, with drones, it's like 95% and maybe you can knock something out, or maybe you can get away. There's not really a lot of defense. And so the analogy that I would use here is something more like this. This is a soccer field, but instead of the goal being the goal in front of the stands, imagine that this goal isn't here and the goal is the stands. And the soccer ball is being kicked from the other side, and all it has to do is cross that back line and hit someone in the stands, and it's successful. Except the ball is explosive, and that's where we are. All right, my friends, tell me what you think about that analogy, because I think that's a good explanation for how drone warfare actually works, with these FPV drones attacking each other's side, hard to defend against, and big targets. All right, that's all that I have. Thank you for the likes, the shares, and the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.